Good morning, everybody. My name is Alistair Tulloch. I am your provincial Power School pedagogy lead with EECD, and my co-partner here, Lindsay McDonald. Lindsay, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Good morning, everyone. I work with Alistair and the PEDS, and I also work with the SIS specialist at your districts.
Okay, and I'm there's still a few of them, Lindsay, that are saying in the window that they can't hear. If you want to let them know that we've started, and then
Yeah.
we'll be sending out video links on these things. So yes, this session here, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be recorded, and next week I'll be sending out a link of all the sessions, so you can go watch another one other than the one that you're in here now, because it's not too bad to do that, because there are different questions asked, and you can get some other information from other people's question, which is always neat. So today's session is reviewing attendance in the K-8 world. So that would be for daily attendance, which means teachers take their attendance in homerooms. I just want to back up a little bit to give you a little bit of background on how we arrived here today. As you know, the 10-year education plan came out last year, and part of that 10-year plan, there were going to be a number of measures that were taken to find out how we're doing. And there's a new one that's coming for this September, so we're creating a new baseline for attendance. So over the past year with your SIS leads, Shonda and Shonda in East, Richard in West, Helen in North, and Shana in South, and your pedagogy leads in your district. We have Yvette here with us today from West. And myself and other people in the department, Lindsay, we looked at all the information that was in the SIS, Student Information System, Power School, and we looked at how things were going for attendance. So we wrote up some documents. We've even revamped the data standard. I'm going to share that with you now. So you can see the data standard is actually from this summer. It clearly defines attendance and when it counts on the report card, when it doesn't count on the report card, what's considered an absence, which is considered a presence. And there were a few that changed. Some have dropped. I just want to note right up front that this document is for all schools, K right through till 12. So you may see attendance codes that are maybe a little bit more appropriate for different age levels, but one of the ones that changed was school programming, and that now includes things such as guidance appointments, interventions. It could be meeting with outside agencies. It could be, which is integrated service delivery. Programming for a student's PLP at the high school level, that would be for co-op. So the general interpretation of school programming, it means when the kids are not actually sitting in their class, physically sitting in their class, but they're involved in school sanctioned activities that have to do with their learning. So as you can see, all these things that are listed in the box over here under the comments, they are all different types of learning. So it's not necessarily their math and language arts, but it could be something else. So school programming is used for that. Another one that we had before, attendance not required, but we're going to be asking that you use it more often for particular situations. We're going to go through those today. Another one is school activity. We're going to be asking that you use that a little more often. And you can see we've changed the language on it. It used to be other excused absence, and now we're calling it other informed absence. When we talk about excused, some people may not agree that going on vacation is an excusable reason for missing school. So some people say, I don't agree with that. I'm going to put unexcused because I don't excuse that. So what we're now saying is we want to say that we have been informed that the child is not going to be in school. And the other one is unexplained absence. That still remains the same. So with the 10-year ed plan, this is not just an EECD initiative. This is something that's to be helpful for schools. It's to be helpful for the district. In both cases, they can be used as part of either the school improvement plan or they can use as the district improvement plan. And then the province will be reporting out the numbers to the public to find out how we're doing with student attendance. And when students are chronically absent and we can accurately and reliably trust the data that's in there, then we've got information to put a plan in place. Any questions about that so far, folks?
No questions so far.
No questions so far. Okay. All right. So this presentation is going to be divided into two parts. Part one is going to be the things we already do, but we want to make sure we revisit them so everybody just gets a reminder, gets a refresher. We found over time that there were some inconsistencies across the province on how some things were done, so we just want to revisit them. And the second part are the new things that we would like you to do. In the link session that I sent out to you, there were documents attached within that link session, and one of them is the big long technical document that tells it has everything that we're talking about here today. So you can refer to that document if you forget what you should be doing. Also, of course, you don't need to submit something right this second. If you have any doubt in your mind, you can submit a help desk request, and your SIS specialist will get back to you, talk to your administrator. Also, our data and accountability people in your district, they are also available to answer questions for things too.
And Alistair, we've got a question about where can we find the data standards. That PDF was also in the meeting invite.
Yeah, and I'm also going to show everybody our PowerSchool playbook because I actually put it up there as well too. So at the end of this, Barb, I'll make sure I show you where it is, okay? Thank you for the question. Okay, the first thing I want to talk about is the calendar. PowerSchool is all dates driven. And the first thing within your school that sets the dates is the calendar. So we have to say when school is in session and when school is not in session. So here's an image of what a school should look like when it's set up correctly. You may not have a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You might have an A, B, C, D, E type of thing. Some schools have more than one bell schedule. In this training environment, I only have one. So when you set up your calendar, you have to make sure you have the correct cycle day because this drives your calendar. This tells you when kids actually get their certain classes. We need to say that school is in session, so this means that things will count, if you will. Membership value has to do with the attendance codes. We discovered that there were people that would change this 1 to a 0.5 when there was a half day of school. The way our system is set up is that we say when the building is open, we give it a 1. This 1 value actually gets multiplied by the attendance code value. So our half-day codes have a value of 0.5. They are multiplied by the 1, and that gives us a 0.5 absence, which then reports on the report card. We count absences, not presents. So there are some codes that we're going to be talking about today that we need to make sure we clear out when schools are not in session so kids aren't counted for extra absences that they don't need to be. In New Brunswick, for the tracking sessions right here, these in sessions, we do not use the full functions of tracking by the tracks, so we always leave them all on. Another thing we discovered is we had a few schools that if it was a half day, they came in here and they just turned off the last 3 thinking this was period 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, one of them being homeroom, that type of thing. We always leave these fully on like this. These last 2 columns do not impact on any of the attendance reports or attendance on the report card. So even if you don't have anything set in here, it's still going to work correctly. But it's good practice to say what is going on the day. And you can put notes over here. So let's say it was infrastructure. And the problem could have been heating. So you can actually put some notes in there, but these don't go anywhere. They just remain within the calendar. It's really important that when you're working with your calendar around report card time, the calendar needs to be revisited and adjusted, if it needs to be adjusted, at least 24 hours before teachers start printing report cards. Usually not an issue so much in the high school because the office prints the report cards, but in elementary schools and middle schools there are a lot of homeroom teachers that print their own report cards, and this needs to be done 24 hours before they start printing, because in each evening there is a rollover process that occurs with PowerSchool that takes any data that was kind of entered today, and it gets updated in the system and pushes to other tables and other functions. So one of the other functions is attendance on the report card, so it has to be done at least 24 hours ahead. Another thing too, we want to make sure that this calendar drives the possible number of days. So, you verify the number of days in the term. These numbers can be wildly off if you're not looking at your calendars on a regular basis. So we recommend at the end of the month and the start of the month to check to make sure the outgoing month is right, and then your incoming month is mostly right. Obviously, you may have to change things because of weather events, or the school's closed for other reasons, maybe for infrastructure reasons. Any questions about that, folks?
No questions so far.
Okay, great. Okay, so the within the office, the items that have to be done by AAs and administrators would be to do attendance for individual students. So this would be the phone call. This would be the family member that's coming in to pick the child up or drop them off late, and they come into the building and you need to enter some attendance data. This could be a student that's being suspended. It could be a student meeting with outside services and somebody's coming to meet them, like social services, for example, could be coming to the office, and then you can adjust students' attendance. So what we do is I'll pick a student here for you. Let's see, we'll take this one. So Mina's parents have called in and said that she's going to be sick for the day. So you find the student from the start page. You'll notice I typed it in by the last name, but you could do it by using the letters, or the grade level, whatever way works for you. It doesn't really matter. More than one way to make a beautiful lasagna. Under academics, we click on the attendance, and we click on the day of the week that the parent has called in. So let's say it's a Monday, and she's calling to say that she's going to be ill for the day, and we're asking that you also put your initials after it as well. In a small school, it's not so bad, but in larger schools, you could have as many as 3 or 4 people putting comments in, and it's always a good idea that we know where the comment, who put the comment in, so that if we have to chase down information, we know where to start the search. We don't worry about the time in and time out. We don't use these functions. We don't use total time calculations, and you don't need to have a time comment. So this will be submitted, and if we take a look right there, you can see that Mina's out for that day. If it was for half day, then it would just be a matter of medical appointment AM and a comment of some kind, and making sure that you put your initial in as well afterwards to accurately capture that. Those comments get pushed to Power Teacher so teachers can see what that is, but they do not have the ability to adjust it because Power School trumps Power Teacher. Okay, so if we are looking at, let's say there was going to be a student that was suspended for 5 days, well, you can actually click on Meeting and then do the date range and open up this. And if you're a daily attendance school, then maybe it's going to be an in-school suspension for 2 days. So you could go 2 of them like this, just remembering that you have to put a comment. I wouldn't put too many details in here. Not everybody needs to know the information. but it should be enough that teachers will know where they are. One of the things I like to do is I like to highlight and copy it before I close it, so that when I get to the next one, I can just cut and paste it in there, so it saves me a little bit of time.
Alistair, we have a question.
Yep.
What if someone is late because of a medical appointment, but not out half a day? Can we have a tardy medical?
No, you have to have one or the other. So I would put it in for medical, and then put, well, here comes the big conversation, I suppose. There's always a debate on what is considered cutoff for tardy, and how much time. And talking to a lot of schools over the last couple of days, the general consensus I seem to get to hear is that if they're later than the morning break, then they're considered AM absent. But that's not my call to make, and I'm certainly not recommending that. I'll be very clear about that. But that's a conversation. So you can't do one or the other. So you either have to say they're tardy and say they were late because of a medical appointment, or you have to say medical and then say they were tardy. If you say tardy, it doesn't go on the report card. Medical will, though. So it's you'd have to have a conversation with your admin about that. Thanks, Lindsay. So those are your individual students. Any questions about individual students? The big one that we really are looking for.
Beth mentions that she has seen tardy on the report cards.
Right. It gives a tardy count, but it doesn't impact on the attendance count. So it'll say how many times a kid is tardy, but that doesn't actually say that they're missing like a day of school. So a kid can be tardy many times and they can still have perfect attendance. I know it's a little bit of an oxymoron, but it's true. Okay, so the big one that here we'd really like to tighten up on is the attendance for supply teachers. So when you have a supply teacher in your building, the general protocol is that a piece of paper gets sent down to the office and indicating which students are absent or whether it's all students are there. So regardless of whether somebody's absent or whether whether the class has perfect attendance on that morning, you still have to go into the teacher schedules. So if I take Leo right here, and Leo's been out sick, and I'm in for him, and I send down the piece of paper, and everybody's present, the AA still has to come in and submit. This way, it's actually registered in the system that attendance was taken. If attendance is not taken, every child would still be default present. However, if we run the attendance teacher submission status report, you'll see now that Leo has had attendance taken, and we know that everything's good for the Safe Arrival program. If you have one student absent in a class, so we'll take a look at my homeroom, for example. If you have one student in the class who's absent, do not find that one student on the page here. You have to make sure that you come in here for me, go find my homeroom, and unexcused absence, and then submit. Because by submitting here, you actually record that my attendance has been submitted, rather than going to find that one student. So you can see I'm golden. I'm good to go. Now there are some cases here I would like to show you O'Shea. Notice in O'Shea's we've got homeroom and we've got art. So if I go to O'Shea today and I submit for the homeroom attendance, O'Shea will not turn green because art. Let's take a look at the art for O'Shea. Right here under the section, this button right here, exclude from attendance. If I click on this button right here and submit, and we go back and we look at the teacher submission status page for O'Shea, you'll see that it only has one now. And we're recommending to schools who take daily attendance that you make sure that it's only homeroom that's being counted on this page. Now, O'Shea can still use Power Teacher. Look, I'll show you. Watch this. You'll see that Art still has the chair available, and O'Shea can still take the attendance for Art, but that would be an internal record keeping, and it would help O'Shea realize who was missing Art on that day, but it does not impact on the teacher submission. And sorry, I'm in the wrong place. On the teacher submission, we know that once O'Shea has done it, so at this point it's now 9 o'clock in the morning and you've got to get this all wrapped up because the phone calls are going to go home. You know just by looking on this without actually having to click on any of the other buttons that there are other classes that are being counted in there.
Sandra just notes, there's a Sandra that notes, that's how I do the attendance recording every day if the homeroom teacher does not submit.
By going in through teacher schedules?
Yeah.
Perfect. That's what we're asking people to do. We found out by just doing interviews around the province, we found some were just doing it by the individual student because there was only one absent, so they would actually type the name in here and then just change the one child. That will not change the teacher submission status. We want to make sure that the teacher submission status has been changed so that we know that the present values that are entered in there are not default values but actually purposeful entries for present. Okay, that's great. Okay, so those are the items that we just wanted to revisit. So we'll just go over those quickly one more time. So we're looking at making sure that you touch the calendar. We're also for individual students that you find the student on the page and put it in under their attendance value. That would be the phone call in or maybe a suspension or outside services, whatever the case may be. And the other one is for supply teacher, that you always go in through teacher schedules and physically open up that one class and make sure you hit the submit button. And if the student if there's a student absent, that you actually do it through the teacher submission as well too. That way we know that it has actually been recorded. And also with the teacher submission status page, that your sections are turned off or on depending on which one you're looking at, but you really only want the homeroom to be tracked on that page. If your school, you can actually send in a help desk request to your SIS specialist to have those exclude from the attendance blasted all at once to all your sections. They can do it for you rather than having to go into every section and open it up and click the button and then submit it again, which can be slow, time consuming. Okay, that's it. So those are the standard procedures. Any questions with that?
We have a question.
Mm-hmm.
What happens if the parent doesn't give an excuse for a child's absence for a couple of days? How long do the teachers have access for changes, or would this be the AA's responsibility? In Power Teacher, the teacher can actually change the date range to go back to just about any date backwards. So it doesn't shut off access to it. So teachers can keep entering it in. Sometimes you're right, it takes a while for it to come in, and there's a good possibility that the note's actually going to come into the office in the end anyway. So either person can enter it in. And we have another question, and I'm not sure if we can answer this one. With the new school messenger system making the phone calls, it is my understanding that the parent will be called every time a change is made. Is this correct?
Every time a change is made. Barb, can you explain by what you mean by that? Shonda, I'm going to open up the microphone, see if you can give us a hand with that, the answer for that. So you are now our presenter. Can you help us with Barb's question?
While we're waiting,
for Shonda, because I know she was having some audio problems earlier this morning. She could hear us, but we couldn't hear her.
Okay.
I do know that the school messenger has a great help desk, so that you can call the help desk for them, and they would be able to answer any of your questions.
Yeah, from my understanding of the school messenger system, I understood that it really only made the calls if they were unexcused absence. And are you suggesting, Barb, that if it changes from unexcused to informed or some other code, that they would then get another call? I think we're going to have to get some clarification around this because I don't know. Okay, that's what you understand. Okay, I think we're going to need to get some clarification. I know that it's Kathy in the East that's doing that. We'll make notes of these questions, and I will send out these questions to her and then ask her to send out some information for you.
Oh. And also, I know that we have some other districts online. This may be more of an East initiative with the
messenger.
The messenger. I know everybody's using messenger, but I think East is kind of going a little bit different than everybody else. So some of these may only be directed to East.
Okay.
So I don't want the other districts panicking because they don't know what we're talking about.
All right. Good point. Thank you. Okay, so I'd like to take a look now at some of the things we're asking for change in terms of tracking your attendance. One of them is for half days. So if there are times in the year when we keep kids just until noon because it could be parent-teacher interviews. This could also it's also for storm days, but I'll get to that for a second. And part of this is going to be on the teachers as well. So we're going to be communicating this with the teachers for Power Teacher. But if we, in the event that you're taking attendance for a half day, and everyone knows it's a half day, we're asking that you use AM codes only. So we'll use Mina here again, and we know that it's Wednesday, and Wednesday you get a phone call in from home saying that she has a medical appointment. Because it's only a half day, then we really should be putting in only AM medical, because if we put in medical for the full day like this, Mina is actually going to be counted for an extra half day of attendance when school wasn't even opened.
And we have one more question, sorry to interrupt, Alistair.
Oh, yes.
While you're doing this individual student attendance, if you put the attendance for one student this way and a teacher has not taken attendance yet, will she not be able to put in her attendance?
If you do it for the single student, the teacher will still be able to submit for all the other students. The teachers will just not be able to change this one because it's been entered by the office. So if the mother calls in before the teacher even takes the attendance in the classroom, when the teacher opens up Power Teacher, they'll see that this one's already been entered. So the teacher will open up Power Teacher and submit the attendance for all the other students. Kathy would like.
Can she talk?
Can she talk? Yeah, I just have to find her on my list here. Kathy, the floor is yours.
Hi, sorry about that, and sorry to jump in there, Alistair.
No, please do.
I think that there are a lot of people from the East on this call, so I'm getting some text messages because you're giving, unfortunately, that's misinformation about the teachers changing the codes. That's why I jumped in.
Oh.
So here in the East, because we have safe arrival, the only thing our teachers do in the K-8 environment is either absent or present. Every other code is changed at the office.
Okay.
Sorry about that. I just wanted to make sure because I've gotten a couple of emails, people going, that's not what you said earlier. And I'm like, oh, wait a second.
So, well, I'm glad you clarified. And but that still doesn't change the functionality. The teacher can still get into Power Teacher, but they will only have access to 2 codes. Is that correct?
Well, I actually haven't removed the codes, but that's all the principals have asked their teachers to only do that. Just because of the safe arrival piece, that's the best way to keep it monitored for us. So all changes are done at the office.
Right, but the teacher still submits
in their classroom, just whether they're there or not, right?
That's correct, 100%.
So in this example that I have here, we're talking about a half day where school's only open for half a day. Mina's mom has called in to say that she has a medical appointment in the morning. The AA would put this in and submit it. But the classroom teacher can still take attendance, but they'll see that Mina has a medical a medical appointment for the morning, and the teacher can either indicate that their kids are either there or not, present or absent only, right? Just unexcused or uninformed, right? And then the office would be changing it to whatever the real code is.
That's right. The office changes it after the fact, because Mina's mom would never be calling into the office because we have it set up through a system, right? Same with South.
Right. So here's a question. I can see Maria said, so do the teachers have access to half-day absences?
So Marie, unfortunately, this is for East only. So I know that you're in West. So
Yeah.
your codes could be set up differently than what the East codes could be set up for.
Right, yeah, just to clarify, the Safe Arrival system is only available in East and South, but I think the majority of the people on this call are East.
Correct. So to answer your question, Marie, yes, your teachers will have AM codes for West. So Kathy, will teachers have access to AM absent codes? Because they'll need them for what we're talking about here.
Oh yeah, they absolutely. But to be honest, we won't be using any of those. It'll be straight up absent because the admin assistant gets the report that's from Safe Arrival, and she edits the attendance afterwards, puts it back into PowerSchool and adjusts it. So she'd be the one who'd be changing that
to an AM
or whatever.
Right, to an AM code.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, that's perfect. Thanks, Kathy.
Yeah, it's just unique for East and South.
Yep, and I will make sure that, because I'm going to do 2 more presentations today for where most of the people attending are East, so I'll make sure I put that in there.
Yeah, the only, and remember this is a K-8 system, right? It's Safe Arrival, so high school, you do your meeting request is slightly different.
Right, and so if we have any people though this afternoon who are K-12, they'll need to know this. Okay, is everybody okay with half days? Okay. All right. So we're now taking a look at. Do we have any people here from South that are have 6 to 8 in their building, and they are taking period attendance or meeting attendance instead of daily attendance? Do we have any here? Because there's slightly different change process for that than there is what I just described.
Alistair, while they're typing in the answer, we do have another question.
Sure.
So for half a day, does the homeroom teacher have to indicate present AM? And if so, with what code? Do they leave it blank as, sorry, but does the teacher just leave it blank as per normal if the child is present?
And the answer is
2 different questions.
Right. So the answer is yes, because the report card counts absences. There's no half day present because we're not actually subtracting anything on the report card. So if the kid's not there, then they would have nothing would be impacted for their attendance. That's why I was asking the question about for meeting attendance schools. So if we have a meeting attendance school, then the classes that occur in the afternoon have to be blasted with attendance not required for the afternoon, because if we leave that in there, then we're going to have extra values that are being added into it for the day.
And we do have a couple of schools.
We do we? Okay.
Yeah.
So let me show. I better show that then. Okay. So if we're so for those of you that have daily attendance, means it's done in the homeroom. This process is not for you. So it's a half day of school, and what we're looking at is you would grab all your students, and you would take all the kids that are in your school. Just remember, this is like like your K-8 environment. Sorry, is it only? I need a clarification here. Are there any that are for lower elementary that do this, or is it just 6 to 8?
I believe it's just 6 to 8. We may have a couple of schools that are 5 to 12 schools, and the grade 5s do it too.
Okay.
But generally, just 6 to 8.
Okay.
Or 12, sorry, 6 to 12.
So let's say I'm in a K-8 environment right now. So if I wanted to blast the attendance to just for the kids in middle school that are taking period attendance, I have to select the kids that are in those grades. So I got 97 of them. Then what we're going to do is we're going to be under the group functions right here. We're going to be changing their attendance for the date in question, whatever that may be. Say maybe it's say today. And what we're going to do is we're going to be taking the afternoon and we're going to be scanning for all codes and we're going to be selecting it for attendance not required. And we don't use the AM and the PM because we're actually saying attendance not required for specific periods. That's the difference with period attendance or meeting attendance versus the daily attendance. Daily attendance codes represent either a full day or a morning or an afternoon. When we do the meeting attendance, it represents a particular chunk of time for a class. So we don't use the AM and the PM. And then I did it again, Lindsay. We want to do it for all codes.
Because we didn't talk out loud, remember?
Because I didn't talk out loud. That's right. Lindsay always say, talk yourself out loud through this. So you're scanning for all codes and you want it to change. You want to change it. So set it to attendance not required. And then you want to put it in here for to overwrite it to be present, because with school closed, we can't count any absences against the child. Bear this in mind. This is what we have to do when there's a snowstorm and school gets canceled for half a day. So I am going to come back and talk about this again. And then we would submit. So just so we're clear here, what we're saying is for schools that are taking meeting attendance, and we grabbed a specific group of kids that was our 6 to 8s, and we're saying that their attendance is not required for the afternoon. I'm going to go back to our attendance measures for the 10-year plan. The measure is the percentage of time that kids are missing school. If we do not say attendance is not required for these afternoons, our percentage number changes. And so the amount of time that kids are missing is inaccurately reflected, because we're actually counting periods that should not be part of the formula. This is why we're asking to make sure that we say that their attendance is not required, because the mathematical formula would count them if we didn't say we didn't need them. And then we would submit. Okay, so we're looking at partial day programming. Partial day programming would be for a child who is perhaps on a behavior plan, and they've met with their ESS group, and they're saying that the child is going to be coming only on alternate days, or maybe for the morning only. So we look up the child. So we've got Miranda here in grade 4. We're going to be taking a look at looking at the meeting, because this way we can actually scan a whole week at once. So here's a Miranda schedule. We're in our daily attendance school, and Miranda's only going to be coming in the morning for a period of time. So we use the drop-down codes here, and we say that attendance is not required for the afternoon. So in here, what we're seeing is that that Miranda would be coming in the morning. Now, if Miranda was sick on one of these days, let's say we got a phone call home, we'd actually have to change this to illness AM. So this way it would only count a half a day of absence. The attendance not required, it just says that they'll come for the morning, and then the child will go home for the afternoon, and their attendance is not required in the afternoon. One of the things, again, making sure that you put in a code. I would not put a lot of details in here if it's around a behavior plan, because not everybody needs to know the entire behavior plan details. Those that need to know will be looking at the plan anyway. Again,
copy it before you close it. That way you can come in and just quickly paste it. Save yourself maybe a little bit of time, particularly if there's a lot of typing. And for me, who is not a great typer, and then always make sure that you submit to commit. It's if for those schools that are here now that have period attendance, you would actually, instead of putting it in the homeroom, you would take it and you would put attendance not required in the specific periods. You would actually just go through here and say that they don't need to come for the afternoon. So if you remember at the beginning of the presentation, I did mention that you don't have to make an absolute determination this absolute very second. So if you're sitting there and you're going, what do I do here again? There's a document that we've created. You can create submit a help desk, because you can go back and modify this information later. When the department does the data pull on the attendance, they're not pulling it every day, and we will be informing you on the range of dates that we're looking at to pull it. So we just want to get some good practices going so that it's kind of reflects what we do on a very daily basis. Okay, so one of the big ones. Is everybody okay with partial day programming? Also, we recommend that you do not do this any more than a week at a time. So each Monday you may have to come in and update Miranda's. But if you blasted it for the entire first trimester or quarter, whatever your setup is in your school, and Miranda's plan changes, then you have to send a help desk request. The department has to clear out the pieces of data, and then you got to go back and put it all in again anyway. So we just recommend that you just do it 1 week at a time. Okay, when school gets closed, so this would be unexpected closures. So that would be for snowstorms, it could be work stoppage, it could be facilities, the power goes out, that type of thing, and school is going to be shut for the day. What we're looking at now is we're looking at attendance that has been set in the future. So if we're looking at Miranda here, let's say Miranda had been suspended instead. Out of school suspension, let's say it looked like this, just as an example. And she was suspended on Monday, and this information went in. So this would be a future event, right, at this moment, because Thursday hasn't happened. But on Thursday, we have a snowstorm. So the school is actually going to be closed on this day. And so when you come back into the building on Friday, what you do is you go back to your start page, you grab all your students, and under the reports, system reports, you run the NB reports for period attendance by class, for all your students, for all the teachers. Now, depending on what your school is, maybe you just do it for all your homerooms. So if you do daily attendance, it's for all the homerooms. And then you select the date that has been impacted. So, if I'm in on Friday, then obviously I have to go 1 day before and pick that date to run the attendance for. If it was a snowstorm for 2 days, then you would have a 2-day range, and then you could submit right here. So submitting this, look at that. We've got a student that has an unexcused absence from there. So we have to go back to the start page, find Layton, and change Layton's value back to present, because we don't want to penalize a child for an absence that hasn't even really occurred because school was closed anyway. And so we want to change the values back to present, and then you go into the calendar. Take that Thursday that was closed, clear it all out. This is what it should look like when you're done. And then you click submit. I'm just joking about this, by the way. So this is what it should look like. You don't have to clear the tracks out. Save yourself some clicking time. You don't have to clear that out. And then submit to commit. That way you're going to remove any future attendance dates that were put in we've discovered that the attendance value will still show in the report card even when the calendar is turned off, because there's a piece of attendance data sitting in the attendance tables, and that gets pushed to the report card. So a child could actually have perfect attendance, or lose perfect attendance because we don't clear out the absent value on the day that school was closed. And the last thing, this is for East only. Kathy asked me that I bring this up with everyone from East. We're looking at here under, for all students, under your additional information page, we've got the check mark here for media, that we're asking the AAs to click this button if I do believe there are 3 items on the list, right, Kathy? That if all 3 items have been agreed to by the parents, then you would click this. But if they only agree to 2 out of the 3, then you do not click this. It would be like this. Is that correct, Kathy?
I don't see her on the list anymore.
Okay.
But it makes sense to me.
Right. So
yeah, if they don't have permission for all, then they don't have permission.
I can see the comment, is there a report that can be generated for individual homerooms for the media? Yes. So you have to go by homeroom though, so you have to actually take the kids from their homeroom. So if I take Leo's homeroom, I go grab those 6 kids right here. If you want to break it down by homeroom, and then under system reports.
Oh, you didn't make them your selection out.
Of course I didn't. That's just the way it goes, isn't it? It's under pressure under the MB reports, and there is this report right here, student listings. Am I looking right at it?
Yeah, student permissions. It's halfway down from where your cursor is.
Right there. So you can do it by the kids, and you can do it by the media, and then you can it'll give you a list. Look at that! It'll even do it by homeroom as well too. Does that sound good? And it's like this because I don't have all these students listed into homerooms, just so you know, folks. And thus ends the presentation. Are there any questions from anyone? Any clarification need? Would anyone like me to go do one of them again? Lindsay, is there something you'd like to add in there too, just for clarification?
I followed the agenda. It looks like you've covered everything. No questions means looks like you've covered everything and made everything clear.
Okay, I can see
okay, go ahead.
I can see them now. So I've got Barb says, can teachers put in the permissions? No, it's because teachers don't have access to PowerSchool. I don't know if Kathy's still with us right now, but Kathy, your question, will you be sending out a link invite for the messenger system for East? Beth, you may have to reach out directly to Kathy.
There's a couple more other school messenger questions coming here too.
Okay, yeah. When is the call going out to parents in the AM? I thought it was around 9, but I'm not 100% sure what time it is. Again, you'll have to reach out to Kathy for that.
Hopefully Kathy will be in on that messenger training this afternoon.
I'm sure she will be. Shonda, do you know? Any other questions, folks? Yes, you will see us at 2:30 for the high school folks. Most of this, Beth, is identical. There's a few more things that have to do with specific period attendance considerations, such as exam week and turnaround days and things like that. But for the most part, it's pretty straightforward. What happens when there are bus delays? Yes, you'll have to ask that question for sure for your messenger system. Any other questions, folks? Okay, I'll stick around here. If you're more than welcome to get on with the rest of your day. I wish you all a fantastic school year. Lindsay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, for your help here, much appreciated. And Shonda too, thank you for reaching out to those people that were having some troubles connecting. And have a great school year. I'll stay
Beth,
here.
your question for, sorry to interrupt,
Sure, yeah.
Beth, your question for East, what exactly is the AA's role in this? Are you referring to School Messenger or are you referring to Power School?
Power School attendance, what is the role for Power School attendance or the messenger, Bethany?
Maybe it'd be fair to see if she could talk. Would that be easier?
Yeah. I'll see if I can find her here on my list. Do.
Feeling like it's a messenger question, but
Bethany, I'm going to unmute you and let you speak. Are you there, Bethany?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
No problem. Yeah, sometimes it's just easier just to turn on the volume. Yes. What's your question?
Well, we're going with a new attendance via the phone messenger.
Yes.
Where the parents call in and calls are sent out. And I'm not exactly sure what our role is in this. Once the messages come in, do we have to have that data entered before messages are sent out, or?
I know that I had a flow chart that was given to me by Kathy just to kind of briefly explain how it works. So forgive me if I get some of the details wrong, but my understanding is, at a certain point, just like the safe arrival process, right, where phone calls will go home, this one ramps it up. That if there's an initial call that goes out, and there's a report that can be run by School Messenger where you can see the information that parents are sending to you. Now, this is the part I'm not sure. I don't know if their response automatically updates Power School or whether you take their response and then put it into Power School. So I'm pretty sure it's not an automatic feed, but and then over a period of time you'll get the reports will come in and it'll keep telling you how many parents have now responded to either the phone call or the message or the email or the text that goes out. Oh, okay. Helen's saying it doesn't update in Power School. So, but the report that goes out does give you an indication of whether parents have responded or not, and then after a certain period of time, then I think it's a matter of then you pick up the phone and you start calling people. But the automated part is supposed to reduce the number of one-on-ones that you have to do.
Right. I wonder if there's a cutoff time for these calls that come in.
I think there is, and I don't know what specifically what they are. Kathy didn't tell me that, or if she did, it was quite a while ago and I can't remember. But yeah, it starts off with one layer of alert to parents, and then it goes to another if they don't respond, and so forth.
Okay.
And yeah, so it reaches parents in many different ways. And then once they've responded to say that the child's ill, or I don't know what codes the parents have access to in terms of saying where their child is, but I do know the report that you can run will tell you what the parents have responded with.
Okay, so the calls going out is connected with how fast we can put their attendance in the system after we've generated the report.
So can I interrupt us for a second? Because I'm messaging Kathy right now, and she says there's a safe arrival meeting in 5 minutes. So it sounds like these questions would be perfect if you could join that meeting, and
Perfect.
she's on it, and she'll be able
Yeah.
to answer those.
Perfect.
And
Thank you,
need to get your
Alistair.
attendance
Yes.
in as soon as possible, but
Okay.
and
I think
please
maybe
forgive
that'd
me
be
if I've
great.
pointed you in the wrong direction.
No, I appreciate your help.
Yeah, take it all with a grain of salt from me.
Yeah, no problem. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a great year, eh?
You too.
Thanks. I'm going to pause it.